Ever felt that strange shiver when the rain lashes down and the city lights blur into an inky abyss? They say rain cleanses the streets, but it also wakes up the things that hide beneath them. And on nights like these, when thunder swallows every sound, some stories crawl back out, whispered in the dark, waiting for someone like you to listen. The first of tonight's legends comes from deep below the city, where the rain seeps through cracked ceilings and echoes down empty tunnels. Locals still talk about what happened at Hillcrest Station one stormy Friday night in 2018, and how the cameras caught almost nothing at all. It had been raining for hours, the kind of relentless downpour that blurs everything into gray. Most commuters had gone home early, but Leah Mendez, a 28-year-old graphic designer, stayed late finishing a project. By the time she reached Hillcrest Station, the platforms were slick and empty. The announcement boards glitched between delayed and arriving soon. She texted her roommate, "Catching the last train? Be home soon." That was 11:47 p.m. She was never seen again. Security guards later said the rain that night flooded half the stairwells. They remembered seeing her, umbrella closed, headphones in, standing near the yellow line, waiting. Then the train arrived. Or at least something did. The platform cameras recorded normally until 11:52. Then the feed began to distort. Colors inverted, static lines flickered. For exactly 7 seconds, the footage froze. When it resumed, Leah was gone. Her umbrella was found on the bench, still dripping. Transit Control claimed the last train had already departed another station at that time. There shouldn't have been one at Hillcrest at all. Yet 2 witnesses, both maintenance staff, swore they saw headlights approaching the platform. A dim glow moving through the tunnel, perfectly silent. They described the carriages as fogged up from the inside. Police drained the tunnels the next morning, thinking she may have slipped or been pulled onto the tracks. Nothing. Dogs picked up her scent for a few meters, then lost it at a ventilation shaft that led nowhere. Her phone was later found still connected to Wi-Fi in the station's underground network. The last ping showed data uploaded to the cloud, a small 6-second audio clip, autosaved from her recording app. It contained 3 sounds: the approaching hum of metal wheels, a low distorted voice whispering something unintelligible, and a single word, clearly human. "Wait. My cousin works transit. They said the same glitch happened again last night. Hillcrest Train 12A keeps showing up in logs that don't exist." Someone even posted an image from the security feed, a blurred frame of the platform just before the static. Behind Leah's outline, faintly visible, stood a second figure. No face, just the impression of someone standing too close. The clip was removed within hours. Transit authorities cited privacy reasons. Researchers noticed a strange detail. Every 5 to 6 years since 1983, a passenger had disappeared from the city's underground system during heavy rain. Different stations, always the last train, always during a storm that flooded at least one section of tunnel. Each case had a technical fault logged the same night: camera failure, signal error, audio distortion. Old employees still call it the rain line. They say it appears only when the city is drowning, picking up the ones who shouldn't have stayed behind. In 2020, a maintenance worker named Joel recorded a video during a downpour to prove the legend wrong. He filmed himself walking through Hillcrest Station at midnight, flashlight cutting through the steam. For 8 minutes, nothing happened. Then he turned his camera toward the tunnel, and for a split second, light flared ahead, reflecting off the rails. When he replayed the footage, the timestamp jumped 7 seconds forward, at the exact same mark as the old security glitch. He quit the next day. Maybe Leah stepped onto a train that wasn't there. Maybe she became part of the system itself, trapped in the hum of machinery, in the rainfall, in the silence that fills every late-night platform. Or maybe the legend exists to remind people of something more human, how easily we disappear when no one's watching, how cities swallow loneliness the way drains swallow the rain. Every story of Hillcrest starts the same way. It was raining, but what people really mean is, it was quiet enough for the city to listen. They say if you wait alone for the last train during a storm, you might hear a faint announcement echo through the tunnel, a voice calling the wrong station name. If you hear it, don't look for the lights. Just leave the platform, because not every arrival comes from this side of the tracks. You ever live somewhere where the rain doesn't just fall, it lingers? It's like the whole world goes quiet, except for the sound of water dripping endlessly down walls and glass. That's what attracted Evelyn to the apartment complex on Riverside Avenue. It was small, old, but oddly peaceful. The kind of place you'd imagine a writer living, surrounded by fog, the sound of rain, and city lights blurred through the glass. Evelyn moved in mid-October, right before the heavy rains began. She worked late nights as a graphic designer and liked the solitude that came with her schedule. But on her third night, as she was editing in silence, she noticed something strange. Above the noise of the rain tapping against her window, she heard crying. At first it was faint, like a woman's muffled sobs coming from somewhere high above her floor. She thought maybe it was just a neighbor, someone having a rough night. But then it came again, louder, clearer. A trembling, broken voice, weeping rhythmically in between rolls of thunder. Evelyn turned down her music and listened. The sound was coming from the apartment directly above hers. She frowned. That apartment had been empty since she moved in. She knew because the landlord had told her. The top floor was sealed for renovation. Still, maybe she heard wrong. Maybe the sound was echoing through the pipes or vents. She brushed it off, went to bed, and told herself it was just the weather playing tricks. But every night after that, whenever it rained, the weeping came back. At first, she tried to record it on her phone, but the sound never seemed to pick up clearly. It was like it only existed in the moment. She told her friend Marcus, who came over one rainy evening to see, or rather hear, it for himself. They sat in silence for nearly half an hour, waiting. And then, right as the rain intensified, it started. Soft, distant, unmistakably human sobbing from above. Marcus stood up and stared at the ceiling. "That's not pipes," he said quietly. "It sounds like someone crying right above us." Evelyn nodded, her skin crawling. "The apartment's supposed to be empty," she whispered. Marcus, being the type who always had to see things for himself, convinced her to go upstairs. The hallway on the top floor smelled like mold and dust. The overhead lights flickered weakly, and at the end of the hall stood the door to the vacant apartment. The door was sealed with yellow renovation tape, but it looked old, brittle, like it had been there for years. As they got closer, the crying stopped. Then, just as Marcus reached for the handle, a sudden thud sounded from inside. They froze. It wasn't like something fell. It was like someone hit the wall, hard. Marcus muttered, "That's it, we're leaving." But Evelyn stepped forward. Something about the sound felt familiar. It was desperate. It wasn't angry or violent. It was pleading. She whispered through the door, "Hello? Are you okay in there?" No response. Only the faint sound of dripping water. They stood there for a long time. Then finally Marcus pulled her away. "Come on," he said. "If someone's in there, it's a building issue, not yours." Evelyn reluctantly followed him back downstairs. But she didn't sleep that night. because long after Marcus left and long after the rain had stopped, she heard one final whisper from above, a trembling, breathless voice saying, "Don't open the window." The next morning, Evelyn called the landlord. She told him about the crying, the noise from upstairs, and the strange whisper. The landlord went silent for a few seconds before saying, "That apartment's been locked for years." Ever since the incident, Evelyn froze. "What incident?" she asked. The landlord sighed. Apparently, 5 years ago, a young woman had lived in that same top-floor unit. She was quiet, kept to herself, and always complained about being followed. Neighbors would hear her crying late at night, especially during storms. One morning, during a particularly heavy downpour, she was found dead near the window. It wasn't clear if she had jumped or if something had pushed her, but the police report said the window was shattered from the outside in, as if something came through. Since then, the apartment was sealed, but some tenants, the landlord admitted, still claimed to hear her crying when it rains. That night, it rained again, and Evelyn couldn't resist. She climbed the stairs once more, phone in hand, recording everything. The sound returned, louder than ever. A woman's sobs, echoing through the empty hallway. Evelyn whispered through the tape, "Who are you?" And then, silence. Until something knocked back from the other side. Once, twice, then a long drag across the floor. Her phone light flickered. She caught a reflection in the window at the far end of the hall. A silhouette standing in the rain outside, facing the building. Except, they were standing too high, right at the level of the sealed apartment window. Evelyn stumbled backward, nearly tripping over her own feet. When she looked again, the figure was gone, and the crying had stopped. She ran downstairs, locked her door, and sat trembling in her bed till morning. The next day, her phone had one new video file, the one she recorded. But when she played it, it wasn't what she expected. The footage showed her standing alone in the hallway, whispering, "Who are you?" Then there was silence. And then faintly, over the sound of rain, a distorted voice replied, "You opened it." Evelyn moved out that week. The landlord didn't even question her reason. He just nodded and said, "You lasted longer than most." Now, the apartment remains sealed. But tenants still say that on the heaviest nights, when the storm hits hardest, you can hear crying from somewhere above. And sometimes, if you're on the street and look up toward that top floor window, you might see a pale face pressed against the glass, weeping silently as rain runs down her cheeks like tears. Every big city has one street people avoid after dark. In Portwell, that street is Granton Alley, a narrow passage that cuts behind old apartments and neon-lit cafes. Locals joke that the rain never really stops there. It just hangs in the air, dripping from nowhere. The legend began with delivery drivers. They'd claim that on stormy nights something walked the route behind them, never faster, never slower, keeping perfect distance. They called it the shadowed figure. In 2015, Marcus Dane, a bike courier, took a shift that ran past midnight. Rain hammered the streets, washing color out of the city. His last delivery was to an address near Granton Alley. He locked his bike, pulled his hood tight, and started down the narrow lane. Neon reflected in puddles. Trash bins rattled in the wind. That's when he heard footsteps, slow, steady, echoing behind him. He turned. Nothing. He took 5 more steps. The footsteps returned. Same rhythm, splashing in perfect sync. He ducked beneath a flickering sign, heart racing, and looked again. There, in the reflection of a puddle, was the shape of a tall figure standing under the alley's mouth. But when Marcus looked up directly, the space was empty. He ran the rest of the way, never looking back. A month later, another report surfaced. A woman walking home after a late shift claimed a man followed her halfway through the alley, yet CCTV from nearby stores showed no one behind her. When police reviewed the footage, they noticed something else. At the moment she began to run, her shadow split in two for 3 frames before vanishing. Since then, it's happened again and again, always during heavy rain, always the same area. Victims describe the same sensation, being copied. An amateur filmmaker named Eddie Tran decided to document the story in 2019. He set up 2 cameras, one facing the alley's entrance, another handheld as he walked through. It was raining hard, his breath visible in the cold. The first 2 minutes of footage were unremarkable. Dripping pipes, humming streetlights. Then the audio began to distort. Between raindrops, a low hum rose, like distant static. Eddie stopped, whispered into his mic, "I think someone's behind me." He turned the camera. The frame shook as lightning flashed. For less than a second, another outline appeared overlapping his own, a darker silhouette within his silhouette. He dropped the camera and sprinted out. The recording ends with him shouting, "It's matching me." Eddie posted the video that night. It was removed within 12 hours for graphic content. No one ever explained why. City officials dismissed it as pareidolia, the brain seeing patterns in chaos. Psychologists said rain alters depth perception. Reflections flicker. Our minds create pursuers to explain random noise. But then came the footprints. Cleanup crews reported puddles forming in foot shapes that didn't match any human shoe. Always starting where victims said they first felt watched, and stopping right before the streetlights, as if the figure refused to step into the light. People like to say the shadowed figure isn't a ghost. It's the weight of the city itself following you home. Every worry you carry, every secret you hide, takes form when the sky falls apart. The rain exposes what daylight disguises. Some psychologists studying urban anxiety even use the legend as metaphor. Rain reduces visibility, they say, but increases self-awareness. The figure may be your reflection, the self you avoid seeing, whether that's comforting or not, depends on the night. In 2023, a security guard named Patrice Okoro patrolled an office block bordering the alley. During a storm, she noticed motion sensors triggering one by one, the path forming a line straight toward her booth. The cameras showed only shifting rain. She muted the alarms and peered through the glass. Lightning struck, and for a fraction of a second, she saw a shape standing exactly in her posture, face turned toward her, dripping black water. When the lights flickered back, she was alone. But in the morning, the guard on the next shift found her uniform soaked, hanging by the window, though no one had seen her leave. Patrice never returned for her paycheck. Maybe the legend began as an urban metaphor and ended as something real, a manifestation of how city dwellers ignore each other until shadows become our only witnesses. Or maybe there really is something in Granton Alley that copies whoever dares to walk there after midnight, waiting for the storm to blur the lines enough to replace them. Because every sighting ends the same way. The witness turns a corner, hears footsteps still behind them, and realizes they're already standing still. So if you ever find yourself walking home through rain-slick alleys, and you hear footsteps pacing perfectly with your own, don't stop. Don't look. Just keep walking until the rain stops. Because the moment you pause, something else keeps moving. There's something about the rain that makes the world feel smaller. Like every streetlight, every window, every empty seat on a bus is hiding something just beyond the blur. We started tonight with the story of the vanishing commuter, a reminder that not every disappearance can be explained by logic or caught on camera. Some people vanish into the night, and all that's left behind is the sound of the rain against the tracks. Then we met the shadowed alley figure, a shape that shouldn't exist but somehow does, waiting for the perfect moment to be seen. Maybe it's not stalking us out of malice. Maybe it's something else entirely, something drawn to the loneliness that only rainy nights bring. And finally, the weeping apartment window, a story of grief that refuses to die, echoing through walls and storms, reminding us that some voices can't be silenced, even by time. Each story comes from a different place, a different person, a different rainstorm. But they all share one thing in common. They don't happen under the sun. They happen when the streets are empty, when the sky turns black, and when the only witness is the rain itself. So next time you find yourself walking home under a storm, when the air feels too cold, the reflections too deep, and you swear you see someone watching from the corner of your eye, remember this. Some legends aren't told for fun. They're told as warnings, because the next story whispered on a rainy night might be about you. If you've ever experienced something strange when it rains, a figure, a voice, or something that just didn't feel right, tell your story below. Because the scariest part of these legends is how many of them start with the words, "I thought I was alone." Stay dry, stay safe, maybe